Hello and welcome to another episode of Who Knew in the Moment, the podcast. Today, I am honored to have JJ with me, and he is, well, let me say it this way. He has a fascinating story. We're going to get to highlight a lot of the pivotal turns, but what he's probably best known for is either his amazing magic tricks, but now his international speaking, and also the advertising and marketing agency that he runs. So JJ, thanks so much for being on with me today.
What's up, man? Let's give your people some energy, some enthusiasm, some excitement, but let's give them some tactics. Nothing worse than you listen to someone speak on stage or on a virtual event or a podcast, and they just fill you up with stuff that you can't implement. You're like, dude, that was great, but what now? So I want to make sure people get left with maybe a different perspective, my man, and maybe just I could try that and I can implement some stuff today.
I have no doubt, just knowing some of your content, that we'll walk away with some actionable items. So thanks so much, JJ.
Yeah, man. Well, that's the way I like to learn. You know what I mean? Like I just present the way I would like to get feedback, dude. Like I want to go be like, hey, he got my attention, but now I can actually take and implement some stuff, and I know I can digest it. You know?
Yes. Absolutely.
Dude, look, I'll even prove my point right now. Look at all these notes that I've got I'm a note guy. Look at these notes I've got from 7 hours of conferences. Dude, I've scrolled through them, but it's like, it just shows you take all these notes. You don't do shit. You know? Anyway, let's keep rolling with this. Let's keep rolling with this. All right.
You betcha. So starting in the early years, for you, teenage years, you get introduced to magic, which is not an uncommon thing for a young person to do, but all of a sudden you get fascinated with, but how does it work? How does that happen? And you start practicing. So talk a little bit about getting introduced to that at a young age.
Yeah, man. Well, I was the kid that did it longer than everybody else. That's it. Some kid plays professional soccer. Some kid he learns how to dance. Some girl learns how to sing. Like I was just the guy to take that hobby of being a magician and turning that into a full-time love, passion, and profession, and then 15 years old, I got my first paid gig, and, I never went back. And it really gave me the opportunity to go around the world, connect with people double or triple my age, connect with people 10 or 20 times my net worth, 100 times my net worth. And it really got me to understand that people are people. The only thing that stops us difference is language. And 85% is really body language anyway. So at the end of the day, we're all just the same people. We all want to feel loved, connected, validated, accepted, needed. It's just, we're the same people. We're the same creatures. So
yeah. Now, just with, getting started in that industry, I mean, there's so much to learn, and I'm sure just, countless hours of practice. So what about you? What about, Jay, was it that could focus in and really just dial in on, practicing and mastering the craft?
Well, the big thing for me was really just, sitting in the room and practicing card tricks. That's how I really got good. I learned from DVDs. And online digital, like when you would buy into a forum and they would give you a special code and you couldn't download the video, like it was very cryptic back then in the magic space. And you practice over and over and over, repetition, until that one night you're learning a thing with a card move and you do it and you master it. And then you go out and practice and you perform it, and then you start to find your personality, right? And that's where the me understanding now, 17 years later, 18 years later, how people weren't buying me as a magician. They were buying the tricks. They were buying me.
Yes.
That magic was what I did, but they really bought me to bring it out of them, to bring out the magic at their party or event or corporation.
Yeah, it's so much more than just performing the actual trick, right? It's all the energy and conversation that transforms through that.
Dude, 100%. And look at people who sing a song. A lot of 10 people can sing the same Michael Bublé song. Why is that person remembered better? Is it they sing better? Is it they're more likable? Do they use more inflection? Do they use more hand gestures? Are they larger than life? Are they quieter than life? So it just shows you, like, at the end of the day, it isn't the best product. It's the best person that is really has the attention, but also the one who's remembered.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
personality behind something is very powerful.
That's good. So as you're growing in the magic space, you also then get an opportunity to do some comedy and some stand-up performances. So talk about how you segued into that and how that became a part of you.
Well, you started as a magician. Then I always tell people magic was sort of like my shield as a soldier, right? So
Yeah.
I got my shield, and that was good. And then I got a sword, and that was comedy. And then I got my hat, that was TV hosting and learning how to engage people via video. This is back before Instagram, had started.
Yeah.
We were sort of on MySpace and Facebook at the time. And then, you learn, you have another piece of armor, which is how to connect with people. And throughout my life, what I've done is I've treated myself like an elite soldier. I've just added different skill sets. So for me, I can go into any room at any time, meet anyone, and connect at any point. So I don't realize it until now. Like, when you get put into a position when you're 16, traveling by yourself, and all you have is your confidence, and you've got to win a room, because that's what you're paid to do. You're paid is to captivate a room.
Right.
You become extremely good at learning how to make people like you very quickly. That was your job.
Yeah. So you said something interesting there, and I think this could be one of those tangible, actionable, takeaway items. We get so many opportunities to socialize and to interact with new people, but
Right.
it's oftentimes I met you and then I'm on to the next thing and I forget you. So how did you feel like, you were making that connection that was going to be memorable, next week, let alone 2 years from now, in the future?
Well, making someone feel special is always
Yeah.
important, but then leaving them with something as well.
Yeah.
People remember an experience. I'm
Yes.
sure you can think about a time in your life when you have had an experience that is amazing. You didn't think about how much you spent. You didn't think about as much about what you went through. You're like, wow, that experience at that time, that I'll never forget that. And it could be very cheap, it could be very expensive, but it's an experience. So giving someone a memory that they haven't got before or haven't experienced before is something that, excuse me, sorry, people want to experience something they've never experienced before. So, giving people that by showing them a magic trick is very powerful.
Yeah. So when you say that, it makes me think of there's a hotel in California, and it's not the world's nicest hotel. If you ever looked at photos, but what they do is they have a red phone by the pool, and you call, and then a person brings you a popsicle with white gloves on a silver
Love
tray.
that. What's the
And
hotel?
I forget the name of it. I'll look it
Okay.
up and text you. But
Yeah.
they oftentimes get ranked as one of the best hotels because of the things they do service wise. And it's so funny because it's to your point. It's that thing you've never experienced before. I've never had someone deliver me a popsicle with white gloves on before while I sit at the pool.
Right. Let me tell you something interesting about that. What you've just shared with me. See how easy it is to give someone a memory that doesn't cost very much money, that doesn't really require much extra time, right?
Yeah.
And you just told me that story. Now I'm going to Google that story. Now when I'm back in California, you've influenced me probably to go check out that place.
Right.
Of which, now let me just throw out what I'm thinking. I'm probably going to get a car or take an Uber to the venue. I'm probably going to get valet. I'm probably going to spend more money there getting lunch and, experiencing it. And then I'm going to spend money on whatever that thing is, just from that, to feel that emotion, to that memory from what you shared with me. And that's what, like, to bring this, to give people like their first tangible thing. People are always looking for that next closing line. They're always looking for that new landing page, that new one thing. Man, maybe go back to what you do, what you're great is. Like, how can I just put a unique point of difference onto what I'm doing so that people go, that was cool. That was different.
Right.
And what you just shared with me, like, it doesn't require much more money or extra time. It could just be something just a little bit different. Like here in Miami, right? I live in Miami.
Yeah.
And a lot of places, if this isn't new, but even so, when you go to dinner, if they come out and make the food in front of you, now it's nothing glamorous, but it feels a little bit more special than the next venue.
Yeah.
And you just feel like you can connect with the person making your food, right? And then everyone videos it. Like, it just shows you, like, if you put that into your business, make it an experience, like, people are going to buy, they have to eat, they have to buy a service anyway.
Yeah.
They got a money to spend, they need it. Mine will give them something so they come back, or they remember, or they tell their friends. So
I love that. That's so good.
yeah.
So another thing that's interesting in your story is you decide in kind of like the 2008, 2009 range to start building a YouTube channel, which once again, today, you fast forward 12 years and you say, oh, well, what an awesome idea. But back then that was very unique. So talk about just being willing to get started, even if you didn't have a perfect video or if you didn't have a huge following when you did get started.
Yeah, dude, 2008, 2009. So I started the YouTube channel in 2009, April.
Yeah.
And in February, March, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Brisbane, Australia, having at Starbucks with a guy that I met, and he was telling me about YouTube. And he was saying, listen, have you ever thought of creating YouTube videos to, get your name out there? I was a young magician trying to get gigs.
Yeah.
And he's like, why don't you make videos and make it more like educational? Because I'm noticing that's a really big trend at the moment, like educational driven content. Now, today, we know how important that is. But back then, so I started creating YouTube videos on teaching people magic tricks.
Yeah.
And I infused my personality behind it, and it took off. And it took a while, but to date, I've been seen in 150 countries, 57 million views, 500 videos.
Yeah.
And it just showed you, like, the power of, for me, the way I sell it now, but it's the power of, like, consistency, right?
Yep.
Infusing your personality, right? And having some kind of, like, it's interesting and exciting, that's unique. That's how it shined, like I basically did the magic trick to people. I showed them the reaction. Then I would come back and teach you how to do it. Yeah. So now people feel like, oh my gosh, I saw the outcome. I learned the trick. Now I can go try it to my friends. And it did very well for a long time,
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to highlight with it though, is you didn't just start and say, oh, well, I'll produce one video, every other month. When you first started, you jumped all in, and I think you were doing, what was it? 3 videos a week?
3 videos a week. Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about that, because there's something to be said about consistency, but there's also something to be said about just jumping in opposed to, like, one foot in and, the rest of your body out on this idea.
Yeah, well, I just realized, like, it was better for me to go all in, and I didn't drop everything else. Like, I just did YouTube videos, and I was like, well, if I can do 1, I should do 2. If I can do 2, I should do 3. And it was sort of like, at the time, what I could manage. And we tried doing 5 or 6 a week. I thought maybe if I do more, but I'm like, it didn't get any more traction. So I did like 2 to 3, then I hit it on 3. And then, I just started doubling down on what was working and looking at the comments and seeing what people liked and what they didn't like. And, it started to build, and it got a lot of traction, and it was all organic. I didn't use paid traffic. I never used anyone to help me boost the channel. So it got traction, I didn't realize until one day you wake up and, like, oh, you look at the analytics. I mean, I remember when we hit 100,000 subscribers, that was cool. And then I remember we got 1 million views, and then 10 million. And then when we were in 100 countries, I didn't even know there was 100 countries. I was like, 100 countries? Yeah. Really? Like, I didn't, you sort of just forget, you know what I mean? All you're doing is that. And then you wake up one day. It's sort of like a lot of people say when they hit a big milestone, like, oh, wow, I didn't even know,
Yeah. So there's something I want to highlight with that. And, I think this has been true in my life. I'm sure it's certainly been true in yours. And that is, oftentimes when we hit a certain milestone, it's less fulfilling than what we anticipated it would have been when we set the goal.
Yeah.
And I think it's not because it's less fulfilling, but it's you're no longer the person you were when you set the goal. And
Right.
so as you've kind of leveled up and gotten better, all of a sudden you realize you're capable of more. And so
Right.
hitting that milestone a year later, 5 years later, just isn't as rewarding because you're not the same person you were a year ago or 5 years ago. So maybe speak into that because you've accomplished a lot of phenomenal things.
You sort of nailed it, man. Like at the end of the day, like you put a milestone on and you think like you're so into the process
Yeah.
that yeah, you hit it and then you're like, oh, I already hit it. And now I'm looking for the next thing, you know?
Yeah.
But a lot of the times too, like I didn't put a milestone on that I was going to hit 100 countries or I was going to hit millions of views. I just was like, this is working and I'm going to continue that,
Yeah.
you know? And I see that today, like especially in the space that we play, it's so hard to get attention. I just know if anyone's listening right now, I always tell people this: the work that you do today will pay off in a year's time.
Mm.
So remember, the moves that you make today, the phone calls you make today, the rejection that you get done today, the content that you do today, the podcast that you do today will pay off next year in maybe in 2023 when that client comes through and says, listen, I've been actually watching you from like, I saw you on this guy's podcast, right?
Yeah.
So you on
Yeah.
Phil's podcast. That was it. And you're like, oh, it makes sense now. But I feel like so many people now, it's like, do today, what do I get tomorrow? No, it
Right.
doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Dude, it took me 4 to 5 years to get traction with that channel.
Yeah.
Like when that snowball effect, it started to like, it took a while, like, and then I remember it took like 3 to 4 years, like to really like, it was starting to like, people started to know who I was,
Yeah.
like 3 to 5 years at that time back in 2000 and like, so I'm 3-4 years in, like 2012, 2013, maybe, yeah, 2011, 12, I started to get traction and I'm like, wow, like that was back then when YouTube was a very hot platform. When there was
Right.
YouTube, there was, what else was around that time? I don't think there was another video platform as
No, I
powerful as
think that
YouTube.
was kind
It
of
was
it. Yeah.
Daily Motion and stuff, but back then, that was it. So back then, it took me 3 years. So imagine now,
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you're going through that and, maybe not getting as quick of traction as what you would have hoped or, things of that nature, how did you stay motivated and just stay consistent with it opposed to doing what a lot of people do? And that is, maybe this just didn't work.
Well, yeah, I'm the first person to give up quickly too. Like we're humans, right? I just knew that I had something here and I went, you know what? Like no one else is doing what I'm doing. And there is wins here. Like
Yeah.
I'm seeing some wins. I'm seeing people comment. So I'm like, maybe I should just keep doing this. It's not, and it wasn't like taking too much of my time or resources.
Yep.
So I was like, well, it's getting myself out there,
Yeah.
And here's one thing I haven't told a lot of people. I didn't come with a strategy with that. A lot of people thought I was very strategic. It was like, dude, I'm just going to do videos and I'm just going to put myself out there and I'm going to see what's going to happen. I didn't really have a blueprint of like a whiteboard of like jotting it all out, man,
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when you come with that really authentic way about it, like, listen, I'm just going to show up and do an Instagram live for the next year straight. Let's see what happens. There's a lot of non-pressure on yourself rather than, okay, if I don't get the return of this in 90 days, how am I going to feel?
Yep.
Like, yeah.
That's so good. So as you continue to grow and progress, eventually you decide, hey, I want to create my own company, and you're running that today. So talk about how that formulated and how you kind of came up with the business idea and what got the ball in motion to really start running with that.
Well, throughout when I was doing magic, I was speaking and then doing TV hosting and then back to speaking. So I was speaking to corporations and, I wasn't happy. Like I wasn't fulfilled. I saw other people killing it in the speaking space and I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
But I realized that I wasn't speaking to the correct people. Yeah. I need to work with people I need people that care. And I feel like a lot of speakers, they do their job and they leave and they get paid a lot of money. But for me, it's like, dude, I want to speak to people and I want them to feel me and I want them to do something. I want to like move people a little bit.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic happened, it was the best thing that happened to me
Yeah.
because I wasn't progressing as the speed I was progressing. And I thought that's what you had to do as an entrepreneur. I thought maybe I'm not working hard enough, maybe long enough, or making enough phone calls, whatever.
Yeah.
When the pandemic happened, I literally couldn't do that world anymore, live events, right?
Right.
So when that stopped, I had to play online. And then after some trying different markets of what I wanted to do, I got back into, okay, who are people that need help, who have money, and what can I do to help people straight away? And I went, well, why don't I take my experience of building my own personal brand and leveraging all the success and the instant success you can see if you Google me, so I don't have to prove myself.
Yeah.
And I went to people and said, listen, I can help you grow your personal brand. And then throughout the pandemic, I really feel like a lot of people started to understand how important it was to build that. So I just activated all the relationships I've had and being able to help people elevate their status, get them verified, get them on TV, get them in Forbes. But the most important thing is like build them, grow them.
Yeah. So kind of breaking down, those different pieces of what you just said, I think one is recognizing that there's an opportunity and that you have a skill set, but you also mentioned that some of the work you were doing, you felt unfulfilled. And now it seems as though you feel very fulfilled by what you're doing. So talk about, harnessing energy and finding, fulfillment in what it is that you're able to do and help others with.
Well, when every day I wake up, I get excited about going to work. I don't love what I do every single day, but I still am a strong believer, man, of like, there's got to be somewhat of enjoyment. Like, no one's ever told me that they've made it and they hated their life. Like, they enjoyed elements of what they did enough to push them through.
Yes.
Like the times they don't want to be here. Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, dude, it's well, it's only 10 to 8 now. Like, usually I work later than this, but like I'll make phone calls at 10:30, and I don't want to make phone calls at 10:30 and have to deal with like the stuff that phone calls sometimes give you. They don't always positive phone calls. And it's like, I'm doing this because if I know I do this and I get through the annoying feeling, I can see the grass, I can see what's possible. So like for me, like to come back to your question, like I get that energy from people, man. I get the energy from what's possible and like how many things I can achieve. I like achieving a lot. So it's like, there's so much to do, there's so many places to go. So that's me, man.
I love it. So something that you do a great job of talking about is kind of mental blocks that people have and mental barriers and really being able to work through that. So, talk a little bit about breaking down those mental barriers that somebody might have and how to progress through that and get to the other side.
Well, one of the biggest things that people deal with before like putting themselves out online, a lot of people think it's, well, I don't have the perfect camera, or I don't know what to say, or I'm not in a sexy industry, or I'm not that person. What they're really saying is they're scared.
Yep.
That's it. Mm-hmm. It's got nothing to do with looks, color, age, industry. It's got to do with they're scared. Yeah. That's okay. Let's just voice it. I tell this to clients I coach. It's like, let's just voice your fears. Then we can deal with the fears. If you can't voice it and see it, how are you supposed to deal with it? So like a lot of the things we tell ourselves, I say this on TV all the time, will either make you fly or make you die. So people say to me, well, I'm shy. I'm an introvert. And you know what I tell them? Who told you that?
Right.
And they go, I told myself that. I'm like, exactly. Like, what else are you telling yourself every day? So the thing that you have to do, and it's our job, right? I'm sure you coach people in a certain way. My job, especially with personal branding, I'm taking people that usually have made other things famous or other products famous or famous in their own way. They're making money or they've built things. And now I'm turning the spotlight on them. And now I'm saying, now it's time to reveal. Now it's time to feel a little bit vulnerable. Let's bring that out of you. And that's where the fears come up. No one's going to listen to me. I'm only going to get 3 likes. I'm only, who's going to listen to this man? Like, I'm not like you, Jay. I don't have hair like you, Jay. I've heard it all, but they're scared.
Yeah.
But it's at the end of the day, people are telling themselves why they aren't where they're supposed to be from their own, like, I'm shy, I'm an introvert, all that stuff doesn't even, it means nothing. So yeah, I'm big on before you get yourself out there, you got to get this in check.
Yeah.
Because this is a very amazing tool, amazing thing, or a very dangerous thing. And the fear is usually based on rejection. They're scared of being judged. They're scared of putting themselves out there, you know?
Absolutely. So something as you're saying that makes me think of is, we look up to people oftentimes because of what they've been able to accomplish, but we connect with people on their, flaws, right? The things that they haven't had
Yeah.
success with, because it's really hard to be, sitting in this spot and seeing someone at the top of the mountain be like, I don't even know how to get to the mountain, let alone, get up to the top with you. So when someone's building a brand or they're just being authentically them, how do you, convey for them to, expose some of those, things that they don't do perfectly either, to make them a little bit more relatable with their audience?
Well, start by sharing some times in your life that, have made it challenging for you. And I
Yeah.
always tell people, you don't have to reveal your deepest, darkest secrets, right? But
Right.
just share some things of, like, I call it the top 5. When was the time of your life then you lost when you were a child? When was the time of your life when you lost money? When was the time of your life when you changed your look? Could be when you were overweight, you skinny, you got fit, right? It could be someone you had acne and you lost the acne, When was
Yeah.
a time of your life that you lost someone close to you? And when was a time of your life that you achieved something huge? Like, so all those things that they're just examples, right? But those
Yeah.
things now have an emotion, a story. So you can put up a photo, let's say, for example, that you were very overweight or
Yeah.
you were not comfortable with, and now you're at this point. You put up a before photo of you and you share, I had a terrible problem with sugar. Bro, you know how many people are going to lean in and be like,
Right.
I have a problem with
Yeah.
sugar
Me too.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I can relate to this guy, and maybe that may be it. I have some girls, when I coach girls, I say, I need you to send me the most worst photo of yourself. And they go, I don't want to do that. Send it to me.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. A lot of pretty women have gone through acne problems,
Yeah.
right? They've been through bulimic or anorexic problems, right? I'm like, great. If you don't want to share exactly what it was, share the feeling of that, what that gave you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because the big thing that everyone's listening, you got to voice the elephant in the room.
Right.
If you're a very attractive female, already people are going to be judging you. She's too pretty. She doesn't know what it feels like.
Correct.
She doesn't know anything. She was probably lucky. She probably had a sugar daddy. You got to think of every worst thing that a critic's going to say and break it down. You got to break it. So because like, if you break it first, then people are like, oh, wow. Okay. Wow. She's already thinking what I'm thinking. Okay. Okay. Wow. She's really been through a lot. Now I can relate,
Yeah. Yeah. So for you, Jay, just as you have been building yourself, obviously, once again, anytime you can reach mountaintops and successful levels like you have, there are
Right.
those low moments. There are those things that didn't go the way you have planned. So, whether it's been in speaking or maybe even in just the magic part of getting started, what were a couple of those moments that really built grit inside of you and have allowed you to get to where you're at today?
2017, I put this on my stories recently, my feed recently.
Yeah.
I had to do something that was the hardest thing. I had to borrow money. I've
Mhm.
never borrowed money before.
Yeah.
Like, parents are different, close friends is different, like little bits. I had to borrow a lot of money, 5 figures, to get my visa to come to America. And I remember sitting on my parents' couch and I took my phone and I was WhatsApping my friends. And ironically, the friends that gave me the money were the friends that weren't as close to me.
Yeah.
So not only did I have to ask people for money, but 2, I had to be rejected by my closest friends who were millionaires. That was the hardest thing, because I thought, like, hey, what is $12,000? I had to ask for a bit, two lump sums, but what was like over 5 figures to them? Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, they
Right.
could have paid that. They probably had that in their PayPal,
Yeah.
So when I had to do that, that was extremely hard. And that was a very, like, dude, that's hard as a dude. That's hard for anybody, because you
Right.
feel like a loser.
Yeah.
You feel like money is such gives you freedom,
Yeah.
and like, hey, listen, you're basically saying to someone, hey, listen, I have nothing and I need your help and I need money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many people are used to doing that, but that's tough to do. So that was a big one for me.
Yeah.
And then that was probably the biggest one in the last few years to really deal with, like, because, everything else you push through. I've been at some times in America, when I was living in LA, where, like, dude, I don't know where my next, paycheck's going to come from
Yeah.
in 2 weeks, or, I remember when, yeah, you feel like a loser. You
Mm.
just feel like, I don't want to be this guy anymore,
Yeah. So when you have that feeling, or if someone listening is having that feeling at this moment, how do you use that as motivation, but not dwell in it?
Okay, one thing I've learned from this, you have to tell yourself this is only temporary.
Mm.
Every time I've been through this, listen, and I always said to myself this, it's only temporary and will happen again.
Mm.
That was my thing. Like, I remember, because when you're in the moment, you feel like shit, right? Then in 2 weeks later, you're in a better place. You're like, see, I feel better now. And I remember what I said back then. And I always say it's going to come up again, because we're entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, we take risks. That's what an entrepreneur is, who takes heightened amounts of risks compared to the next person. It's what the definition of an entrepreneur is. So I'm like, this is going to happen again. Be okay, right? And it's only temporary, man.
That's good. Steven Scoggins, I had him on the show, and he shared this when he was transitioning from one business to a next business. And it was, someone told him, this too shall pass, and what's coming next will be greater. Right. And just understanding that, hey, you're always going to go through a tough time, but inevitably, if you can get through the tough time, there'll be something greater if you just keep working right on the other end of that.
Yeah, dude, it's like, it's easy to have a very, like, comfortable life. Like, just chill and just go, go work the 9 to 5. Look, I said this to someone, like, I get why most people don't do this life. I really do.
Yep.
Like, dude, I get it. Dude, to wake up every day and have to manage people, have to worry about bills, like, we all do, but, like, it's a lot easier to check into a job, 9 to 5, get your 60 grand a year, go home. Dude, this life, look, it's 8 o'clock. We're shooting a video. It's like me and another guy in the office, one of my great friends. He's pumping through, right? No one else is here.
Yep.
Like, dude, this is what people don't see, Like, then you're going to do calls, then you're going to do emails, and you're going to deal with rejection. Then, like, it's a complete, like, I really feel like more people should do this when they're younger, because I know I'm going off question, but
You're fine.
I feel like if people mentally deal with this when they're younger, it's a lot easier. Like, someone said to me, how are you so cool throughout the pandemic? And I'm like, dude, this isn't the first rodeo for me of not worrying about money before.
Yep.
Like, they're like, this isn't the first time I've had to change industry. So, like, this is like a Tuesday for me. Let's roll.
Right.
Like, it ain't a problem for me. But I know for people, when they've been running a restaurant for 30 years, there's this lady in LA, lady and couple, they were running an Italian restaurant, 30 years, bam, done. That's it. Imagine waking up one day and just, like, losing everything. Like, how are you even supposed to manage that?
Right.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
So for me, it was easy. For me, it was like, so I think for an entrepreneur, because of the ups and downs, or the high risks that we play, I think if more people did this when they were younger, they would condition themselves to be able to handle this when you're mid-30s, 40s, 50s.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, Jay, I do want to be respectful of your time, but is there any, one last topic that you'd like to go through and just share with the audience?
Yeah, man. Look, coming back to what I do for a living, at the end of the day, 2022 moving forward, people aren't buying your product, they're buying you. So whether you're a coach, whether you're in sales, whether you are a consultant, you're a speaker, author, actor, at the end of the day, people are buying you. So the more people that can get to know you, like you, and the big one is trust you. because the problem, everybody doesn't know who to trust.
Right.
Everyone's some 19-figure earner a year these days, you know, like you don't even know how that number even comes, you know.
Yeah.
But like the more you put yourself out there,
Yeah.
I'll tell you personally, for me, it's given me so much more opportunities. Listen, like you saw me, right, Phil,
Yep.
off somewhere from me putting myself out there. It wasn't it, right? Am I wrong?
That's right. Yeah.
So me showing up, putting myself out there, showing that I'm doing other things has given me the opportunity to get in front of your stage, which will give me opportunities. Like this is what happens when you build your personal brand.
Yep.
So like if anyone's listening, like put yourself out there, because if you don't, some other young guy is going to, and he's going to skyrocket you and take all the opportunities, all the cash flow, all the money, all the things from you, because he's still willing to go, you know what? I don't know all the answers, but I'll put myself out there. So that's what I can share with your people today, you know?
I love it. Yes. That personal brand idea, especially like you said, in today's world. I mean, that's so important as accessible as almost everything is, you know, to have a personal brand and be building that is great. And so, Jay, I want to thank you for sharing your story, the pivotal moments. I mean, it's so cool to see the magician to the comedian to the speaking, and now what you're doing, helping others and building that brand for them. So I want to say thanks so much for being on, and can't wait to do this again in a few years when we have more pivotal moments to highlight and go through.
Awesome, man. Hey, let's get a photo before we go too. Ready?
Let's go.
1, 2. Bam. That's all day I've been getting these.
I love it.
Nice, bro.